I learned this early. The things that make you comfortable are usually the things that kill you the slowest. People call it success, the house, the car, the free time. But I call it mental mold. It doesn't hurt. It's not dramatic. It just quietly drains your will while convincing you that you're living. Comfort doesn't come from freedom. It comes from no longer wanting to grow, and that's when your life starts to rot. No one tells you that. They tell you to enjoy life, find balance, play it safe. But look around. How many stable people are actually trapped in a life they no longer control? I didn't choose comfort because I know. Comfort kills progress. It kills the biggest companies, it kills the best ideas, and most importantly, it kills you, without spilling a drop of blood. You want to live a real life? Start by resisting anything that feels too easy. And if you're feeling even a little uncomfortable with what I just said, good. It means the real part of you isn't dead yet. This is Mind of Musk. You're not here to be comforted. You're here to be woken up. They don't warn you about comfort. They sell it to you. Wrap it in dreams, decorate it with smiles, and call it the goal, the comfortable job, the predictable income, the cozy apartment with soft lighting and weekends off. That's what you're told to want. That's what they reward. But here's the truth they never say out loud. Comfort is a slow form of suicide. You don't even notice you're dying. No pain, no collapse, just erosion. Bit by bit, your hunger fades, your curiosity dulls, your edge blunts, and before you realize it, you're 35, waking up in a routine you don't remember choosing, watching your ambitions rot behind your eyes like forgotten code. Comfort doesn't break you. It numbs you. It sedates your discomfort just enough to convince you you're okay. Not great. Not thriving. Just okay. And when people ask how you're doing, you lie. Politely. Not bad. Can't complain. Getting by. But getting by is not living. Getting by is floating. And floating for long enough leads to drowning. I've seen this everywhere. Smart people stuck in easy jobs, talented people trapped in cities they hate, engineers with billion-dollar minds solving $2 problems for companies they don't believe in, because the paycheck's steady and the coffee's free. That's not life. That's anesthesia. That's the system working exactly as designed. Give you just enough comfort that you stop asking dangerous questions. I never trusted that system. Even as a kid, I found it suspicious. How everyone seemed content to live within limits they didn't design. School taught me obedience, not curiosity. Workplaces taught me to follow structure, not to challenge it. And the more I looked, the more I realized most people aren't choosing comfort. They're surrendering to it. It's not a preference. It's a retreat. A retreat from fear, from failure, from friction. But here's the problem with that. The moment you stop engaging with friction, you stop growing. Growth only happens when something resists you, when something challenges your assumptions, when something forces you to stretch. Everything I've built came from discomfort. Not inspiration, not clarity, not luck. Discomfort. Sleeping on the Tesla factory floor, watching SpaceX rockets explode, being told, publicly, repeatedly, that I'm wrong, stupid, reckless, good. Let it hurt. Pain is a signal. Pressure is proof. If it's hard, it means you're pushing. And if it's easy, you're probably not moving at all. People think success is supposed to feel good, but that's a lie sold by people who've never actually built anything. Real success, meaningful, lasting success, feels like insomnia, feels like friction, feels like building a bridge while you're already halfway across the canyon. If you're waiting for it to feel easy, you'll never move. You'll wait your whole life for a moment that was never meant to come. Comfort tells you to wait. Discomfort dares you to start, and there's a dangerous cost to waiting. While you're calculating risk, someone else is building resilience. While you're planning your move, someone else is failing forward. While you're negotiating with your excuses, someone else is bleeding, but moving. That's the real war. Not against other people, but against your own attachment to ease. I've seen companies die from comfort. Leaders lose their edge because they stopped feeling fear. Engineers miss the next breakthrough because they got too comfortable maintaining the last one. Comfort is how ideas die before they're born. It's how vision gets reduced to maintenance. It's how revolutions get replaced by routines. If you want an extraordinary life, you can't live like the majority. The majority wants comfort. You need friction. You need stakes. You need to put something on the line every time. Otherwise, you're just simulating growth, optimizing nothing, repeating, decaying. So ask yourself, where have you gotten too comfortable? Where have you traded growth for ease? Where have you stopped moving? Because the pain of the unknown felt heavier than the pain of staying still. That's the real cost. Not what you're enduring, but what you're missing. The ideas you never built. The impact you never created. The person you never became. Because comfort convinced you to settle for who you were. There's no success without discomfort. There's no progress without pressure. There's no legacy without pain. So if your life feels too easy right now, that's not a good sign. That's a warning, and it might be the only one you get. I could have chosen the easy life. I had every excuse. I was the quiet kid, always reading, always thinking. I got beat up, bullied, mocked for being different. People told me I was too intense, too weird, too much. The world practically begged me to shrink, to hide, to adapt. And for a while, I tried. I tried to blend in, but every time I did, something inside me decayed. It wasn't pain. It was worse. It was silence. A kind of death where your thoughts are alive, but your voice is gone. I realized early that comfort would never save me. Not from pain, not from fear, not from mediocrity, because comfort wasn't my ally. It was the very thing trying to erase me. I saw how most people made decisions. What's safe? What's proven? What won't get me hurt? That logic makes sense if your goal is survival. But I wasn't trying to survive. I was trying to build, to discover, to break things, to understand. And you can't do any of that if you're obsessed with ease. That's why I've always chosen paths that looked irrational. I left Stanford after 2 days. I started companies in industries I knew nothing about. I bet everything I had on ideas that had a 90% chance of failing. Not because I'm brave, because I'm allergic to stagnation. Because if I don't move, I drown. And comfort is the slowest way to die underwater. Most people think I'm chasing success. That's not true. I'm chasing pressure. Because pressure exposes the truth. It reveals who you are when nothing is guaranteed. And I don't want guarantees. I want clarity. I want the pain that refines. I want the friction that tests. If something's easy, I don't trust it. If it feels safe, I question it. And if everyone else agrees, it's probably time to walk away. Building Tesla wasn't safe. It was financial suicide. Starting SpaceX was madness. Competing with NASA, with Boeing, that wasn't bold. That was clinically insane. People told me to stop. Friends, mentors, experts, even my closest allies begged me to take the safe win. But that's the thing. I never cared about winning safely. I cared about whether the problem mattered. If something is worth doing, it's worth bleeding for. People say I risk too much, but I think most people risk nothing and still lose everything. They risk no pain, no rejection, no failure, and in return, they lose their edge, their drive, their sense of self. That's not safety. That's erosion. When I sleep on the factory floor, it's not because I like suffering. It's because I refuse to ask people to do what I won't. It's because I believe proximity to the problem matters. I believe leadership isn't strategy. It's exposure. And you can't lead from a place of comfort. You lead from the fire, from the chaos, from the place where everything could fall apart, and still, you keep building. Discomfort is not the price. It's the tool. Every meaningful thing I've created was forged in pressure. Zip2, PayPal, Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, all of them born from chaos. All of them built not because I was ready, but because I wasn't. And I moved anyway. Waiting for readiness is a lie. It's an excuse wrapped in logic. You don't get ready. You get going. And then you become ready through pain. The world doesn't need more people who play it safe. It needs people who move anyway. People who stay in the storm long enough to become the storm. That's not inspiration. That's transformation. And it only happens when you reject the easy path on purpose. So no, I never wanted an easy life. I wanted a real one. A life with blood, fire, pressure, risk. A life with consequence. Because only things with consequence matter. If comfort is your highest value, you will never discover what you're truly capable of. Because the best parts of you, the parts that invent, solve, endure, create, they only come alive when you're under pressure. That's where character is forged. Not in safety, but in fire. And I'd rather burn than fade. People think the enemy is failure. It's not. Failure hurts. Yes, it embarrasses you. It costs you money. It leaves bruises. But at least failure teaches you something. It moves you. It's honest. But mediocrity? Mediocrity is subtle. It smiles. It nods. It tells you you're doing just fine, and then it slowly rewires your expectations. It convinces you that fine is enough, that normal is success, that average is safe. And once you buy into that lie, you stop asking questions. You stop trying. You stop becoming. That's why I don't fear being wrong. I fear being average, because average doesn't feel like death. It feels like drifting. It feels like compromise disguised as maturity. It feels like peace, but it's really paralysis. Most people don't realize they've settled until years later, when it's too late to go back, when the dreams they buried have turned to fossils, when they realize they weren't living, they were just sustaining, just maintaining, just existing in a narrow, quiet version of life that never demanded their full capacity. That's the true cost of mediocrity. It never demands your greatness, so you forget you ever had it. I see this everywhere. In tech, in government, in education, in business. Systems that reward safety, not excellence. People promoted for compliance, not creativity. Ideas approved because they're unthreatening, not because they're transformative. Mediocrity doesn't just exist. It replicates. It infects. It becomes culture. And once it becomes culture, it's nearly impossible to extract. Because now, you're not just fighting laziness. You're fighting consensus. You're fighting comfort. You're fighting the collective illusion that this is as good as it gets. I've fired people not because they made mistakes, but because they got too comfortable making none. Because they stopped asking why. Because they learned to hide inside the system instead of challenging it. I'd rather work with someone reckless and learning than someone safe and stagnant. You can build from recklessness. You can't build from average. People assume mediocrity is harmless. It's not. It kills companies. It kills teams. It kills potential, not with noise, but with numbness. It dilutes every meeting, every product, every decision, until you're surrounded by people who are really good at pretending to care. Really good at saying the right words without doing the hard things. Really good at executing. Nothing new. I've walked into rooms where I could feel the mediocrity in the air. Nobody said anything wrong, but nobody said anything brave either. That's how it works. It doesn't stop you. It slows you. Just enough that your urgency fades. Just enough that your standards slip. Just enough that your vision shrinks to match the room. Until one day you wake up and realize you've spent 10 years building something forgettable. And you know what the worst part is? The world doesn't punish you for it. The world rewards mediocrity. It pays salaries. It hands out titles. It claps for consistency. That's the trap. You think you're doing well because you're better than the lazy people around you, but better than lazy is still nowhere near your edge. And your edge is where everything worth doing happens. Your edge is where your fear lives, your growth, your pain, your power. But mediocrity keeps you from your edge. It builds fences around your discomfort. It tells you to stay where it's manageable, where it's polite, where no one gets offended, where nothing real ever changes. When I say mediocrity is the real enemy, I mean it literally. It is the single greatest force preventing innovation, progress, and human transformation. Not evil, not stupidity, not even fear. Just that quiet decision to settle, to tolerate, to make one small compromise, and then another, until you forget that you used to want more. I see it in brilliant engineers choosing comfort. I see it in entrepreneurs who stop pushing after their first big win. I see it in leaders who start protecting their reputation instead of protecting their mission. And every time I see it, I think the same thing. This is how empires rot. The human brain isn't designed for greatness by default. It's designed for survival, for optimization, for conserving calories, not burning them. And mediocrity exploits that. It gives your brain exactly what it craves: ease, familiarity, predictability. And the more you indulge in it, the more allergic you become to pressure, until even mild discomfort feels like trauma, until you forget that pain is part of the process. That difficulty is a signal of growth. That friction is how you know you're still alive. Every major leap in my life, personally, professionally, intellectually, came after a period of intense discomfort. But that discomfort was never the problem. My resistance to it was. Once I stopped resisting, once I leaned into it, I found the thing mediocrity will never give you: depth. Depth of thought, depth of impact, depth of connection. Mediocrity will keep you busy but never deep. It will keep you productive but never powerful. It will keep you liked but never respected. And the scariest part? It will do all this while making you feel okay, fine, stable. And that's the most dangerous place to be, because you won't even realize you're losing until nothing around you is alive anymore. Not your work, not your mind, not your purpose. You want to do something meaningful, something that lasts? Then kill the part of you that's okay with being average. Hunt it, starve it, replace it. Because if you don't, it will win. And if it wins, you won't even know what you lost. You'll just feel tired, numb, flat. Like something's missing, but you can't name it. That's mediocrity, whispering, "This is enough." Don't listen. That voice is not your friend. That voice is the enemy, and it's been lying to you your whole life. Most people treat discomfort like a warning sign, something to avoid, something that means stop, slow down, or rethink. I don't. I treat discomfort like a compass, a signal that I'm moving towards something real. If it doesn't hurt, I'm probably still playing. Because everything meaningful in my life has come with pain. Not pain for the sake of suffering. Pain as a byproduct of doing something that matters. Pain as proof that I've stepped beyond what's familiar. People want motivation. They wait for it like it's weather. They want to feel good before they act. But that's not how progress works. You don't wait until you're inspired to build. You build until inspiration has no choice but to find you. Discipline isn't built on feelings. It's built on motion. Relentless, unglamorous, uncomfortable motion. There are days I don't want to show up. Days when every part of me wants to step back, avoid the chaos, let someone else carry the pressure. But I show up anyway. Not because I'm motivated, because I'm trained. Because discomfort isn't a condition anymore. It's a routine, a habit, a rhythm. People think resilience is about bouncing back. It's not. Resilience is about absorbing hits and staying on mission. It's about seeing the mess, the failure, the broken systems, and deciding to engage anyway. That doesn't come from hope. That comes from discipline. And discipline comes from exposure. You can't build tolerance in theory. You can't become mentally strong by thinking about stress. You have to get close to it. Live in it. Sit inside it until it becomes normal. That's what I've done for years. I don't seek suffering, but I no longer fear it, because I understand its function. Discomfort trains you to detach from the need for comfort. It kills the addiction to mood. It separates you from the lie that you need to feel ready. You don't. You need to act. Readiness is a myth. It's a luxury for people who have time to waste. If I waited until I was ready, nothing would exist. No Tesla. No SpaceX. No anything. The only reason they exist is because I moved before I felt qualified. That's why discomfort isn't the cost. It's the condition, the operating system. You can't write new code for your life on the old platform of ease. You need stress. You need rejection. You need people doubting you. You need failure. Not because those things are fun, but because they're fertile. You don't learn anything in comfort. You don't innovate in applause. You don't build anything real while being understood. The world will only accept your work after you've accepted the discomfort it takes to make it. Most people don't lack talent. They lack discomfort tolerance. They quit at the first sign of chaos. They reframe confusion as a signal to stop. But confusion is data. Pain is feedback. Resistance is direction. If you feel friction, it means you're close to something worth doing. That's the lens I use. That's how I decide where to go next. What scares me? What do I not want to deal with? What problem feels impossible and heavy? Go there. Move toward the weight. That's where the leverage is. That's where your future is being negotiated. Not in comfort. In resistance. I don't trust ease. If something's flowing too smoothly, I assume I've missed something. That's not paranoia. That's discipline. It's a trained awareness that ease is often a trap, a mirage, a shallow victory before a deep failure. So I ask better questions. I look for stress fractures before they become structural collapses. I enter rooms expecting tension, because if there's no tension, there's probably no progress either. People fear tension because they fear being wrong. I seek it because it's the only way to know if I'm right. That's the real secret behind discipline. It's not willpower. It's calibration. It's learning to interpret discomfort not as a signal to stop, but as a sign that something valuable is at stake. Your best work will never come from a place of calm. It will come from a place where something is on the line. That's where urgency lives. That's where obsession gets forged. That's where the noise dies and the signal gets clear. Discomfort doesn't make you stronger. It reveals what strength was already there. Most people never find it because they never go far enough to need it. They exit the process before the process transforms them. They stop before they get empty. But that's the point. You have to get empty. You have to exhaust the easy parts of you so the real parts can emerge. That's how I've built everything. Not from motivation, from depletion. From exhaustion. From the part of me that kept building after the comfortable parts gave up. People think I enjoy the pressure. I don't. I've just made peace with it. I've learned to live in it, to breathe inside it. And eventually it stopped feeling like pressure. It started feeling like home, not because it got easier, but because I got stronger. That's what discipline does. It doesn't remove the weight. It reshapes you so you can carry it longer, better, smarter. So, no. I don't wake up feeling inspired. I wake up because the work demands it. Because the mission demands it. Because the world doesn't care about how I feel. It cares about what I build. And to build anything that matters, I need discomfort like oxygen. That's the part nobody wants to hear. They want tips, tricks, hacks. But there are none. Just discomfort. Repeated. Endured. Reframed. until it stops being pain and starts being fuel. Most people don't lose their life in a crash. They lose it in a drift. One small compromise, one decision to wait, one more day of comfort disguised as logic, and then another, and another, until it's been 10 years, until the sharpness is gone, until the urgency has dulled. And by then, the damage is quiet, but permanent. That's what happens when you don't fight it. Not immediately, not loudly, but absolutely. If I had chosen comfort, there would be no Tesla, no rockets, no Mars, no disruption, just a very smart man with a very normal life, writing code for someone else's vision, making money for someone else's dream, dying slowly in a life that didn't demand all of me. That's the tragedy nobody warns you about. Not that you'll fail, but that you'll succeed at something meaningless, at something safe, at something that never needed your full potential. Comfort will never destroy you dramatically. It'll let you keep going, pay your bills, smile at parties, answer emails. It'll keep you busy, but numb, existing, not expanding, because that's what happens when you don't fight it. You get replaced. Not by someone stronger, just by someone more willing to be uncomfortable than you were. If I had waited until I felt qualified, I'd still be planning, still preparing, still optimizing a version of myself that never launches. Because the idea of being ready is a beautiful prison. It gives you permission to delay, and delay is a quiet killer. Every person I've met who regrets their life shares the same pattern. They waited for clarity, for permission, for the right moment. But moments don't arrive. You build them. You build them by choosing the difficult path when the easy one is right there. You build them by acting when you feel least certain. You build them by refusing to be seduced by comfort's soft voice. If I had listened to that voice, there would be no reusable rockets, no electric vehicle revolution, no risk that led to reward. There would just be another smart person buried inside a predictable life. And the world doesn't need more of that. It doesn't need more people who can talk about ideas at dinner parties. It needs people who are willing to die for one. Not metaphorically, literally. It needs people who show up at 3 a.m., not because they have to, but because the problem won't let them sleep. When you don't fight for discomfort, you don't just lose innovation. You lose identity. You forget what it felt like to want something so badly you'd burn for it. You become polite, acceptable, harmless. And harmless people don't build the future. They inherit whatever's left of it after the builders are gone. That's what most people don't understand. Comfort doesn't just rob you of pain, it robs you of impact. It makes you efficient, but not effective. Polished, but not dangerous. Safe, but not alive. If I had accepted the rules, I would have died inside the framework. The framework of predictable progress, of safe bets, of quarterly returns and short-term applause. That kind of life doesn't break you. It seduces you. Makes you forget you were ever dangerous. Makes you forget you were ever different. And once you forget, you lose the fight without even throwing a punch. I've watched talented people shrink into comfort. I've watched visionaries water down their ambition to avoid judgment. I've watched brilliant companies turn into mediocre machines, not because they ran out of money, but because they ran out of nerve. And every time it happens, I don't see failure. I see surrender. Slow, subtle, justified, but still surrender. And the worst part? Nobody notices until it's too late, until the products feel empty. The meetings feel rehearsed. The mission feels like branding. And by then, it's all just noise pretending to be meaning. When you stop fighting, you don't just stop growing. You stop mattering. You become another name in a list, another voice in the crowd, another ghost of potential that people vaguely remember as someone who could have done something, but you didn't. And not because you couldn't, but because comfort convinced you not to. That's what I fear most. Not failure, not criticism, not chaos. I fear becoming okay with less than I'm capable of. I fear waking up one day and realizing I've stopped fighting, that I've let comfort win, that I've started calculating more than creating, that I've started negotiating with a life I was born to disrupt. Because once that happens, once you adapt to mediocrity, it's almost impossible to recover. The edge dulls, the fire cools, and the worst part? You look fine. You sound fine. But you're not building anything real. You're maintaining the shell of a life that used to be dangerous. So what happens if you don't fight it? Nothing. Nothing happens. And that's the problem. You don't fall. You fade. If you've made it this far, then some part of you already knows. The life you're living isn't your final form, that there's more inside you than what you're currently using. That comfort has been negotiating with your potential behind your back. And if you don't declare war on it now, you'll blink and find yourself decades deep in a life you never truly chose. That's the quiet cost of modern existence. Not pain, but numbness. Not collapse, but sedation. A life you can explain, but can't feel. A schedule full of tasks, but empty of meaning. Of days that look productive and feel hollow. And no one around you will stop you. Because they're doing the same thing, smiling through a life that no longer excites them, nodding through meetings they secretly hate, optimizing a version of themselves that was never meant to lead, only to survive. That's the war. Not a fight for ambition, but a fight for clarity, a fight for reality, a fight against the voice in your head that whispers, "This is good enough." That voice is not your friend. It's not caution. It's decay. Every time you choose ease over effort, you strengthen it. Every time you delay because it's not perfect, you feed it. And over time, it becomes your new default. A quieter version of you. A safer version. A version that people like, but no one remembers. You don't need more motivation. You need a moment of defiance. A decision to stop waiting. A moment where you look at the mirror and admit the person in front of you is capable of more, and you're tired of watching them rot slowly in the name of stability. That's what this is. Not a pep talk. A reckoning. A line in the sand between who you've become and who you're meant to be. Start simple. Where are you avoiding discomfort? What are you delaying because it's not easy yet? What skill, decision, conversation, or risk have you postponed for months, maybe years, just because it didn't feel convenient? That's where your war starts. Right there. Not with a breakthrough. With resistance. With effort that feels like friction. Because that friction isn't failure. It's formation. It's your edge, calling you back. You've been conditioned to believe that if something is hard, something must be wrong. That's a lie. Hard is normal. Hard is necessary. Everything worthwhile lives on the other side of difficulty. Confidence is born from doing hard things. Courage is born from doing them while afraid. And character? Character is born from doing them when no one is watching and no one will clap. You want to change your life? Stop chasing dopamine. Start chasing discipline. The kind that doesn't negotiate. The kind that moves whether you feel like it or not. The kind that trains you to act before you're ready, speak before you're approved, build before you're praised. Because that's where momentum lives, not in hype, in habit, repeated, unsexy, invisible work. And the more you do it, the less impressive comfort becomes. The less you need motivation, the more dangerous you become. You don't need more time. You need more truth. And the truth is, most people will never change. Not because they can't, but because they never got uncomfortable enough to see through the illusion. They needed one more push, one more honest look at their life, one more moment where the pain of staying still became louder than the fear of moving. Maybe this is that moment for you. Maybe this is your noise breaking, your lie unraveling, your silence ending. You're not supposed to stay the same. You're not supposed to feel balanced all the time. Growth is lopsided. Breakthroughs are messy. The version of you that builds something unforgettable won't look polished. They'll look tired, bruised, uncertain. But they'll move. They'll act. They'll endure. And that's what makes them free. So ask yourself, right now, what am I protecting that I should be dismantling? What am I tolerating that I should be confronting? What am I calling fine that's actually killing me? Because those questions are your map. They point to your next step. And it won't feel right. It won't feel safe. That's exactly how you'll know it matters. This war isn't against the world. It's against the part of you that agreed to stay small, to stay soft, to stay quiet. And that part has had enough time, enough chances, enough influence. You've outgrown it. Now, it's time to act like it. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait to feel ready. Don't wait for a mentor, a perfect plan, or a sign. You are the sign. The friction you feel is the proof. The discomfort you feel right now isn't a threat. It's a message. It's your future. Knocking. Answer it. If this hit something deep, it was meant to. Because too many people are living a life they never consciously chose. And if you're still here, watching, thinking, burning, then you already know. Your war on comfort isn't optional. It's overdue. This was just the beginning. You want to rebuild your mind from first principles? You want to learn how Elon dismantles fear, laziness, and mediocre thinking, one thought at a time? Then watch the next video. Or go back and replay the ones you weren't ready for. This channel doesn't do motivation. We do reality. This is Mind of Musk, and your mind will never work the same again.